Hello, 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 everyone. Hope you're all having a good day thus far in the wonderful desert heat that's finally kicked in after having a very mild spring and snow in the local mountains in May, which was quite a surprise. Mm. So, my name is Randy Boyd. I'm the founder of the Courageous Healers Foundation, helping men and women and their families heal from the scars of sexual abuse. I'm also the founder of Change Your Life Story Now, trauma-informed transformational life coaching. I do life coaching. Also the international best-selling author of Healing the Wounded Child Within, which is also #1 in 5 mental health categories. So today we're going to continue with my book on chapter 1, which is getting started. It's the chapter of it. And we're going to continue under we're going to continue under the Dealing with Sexual Abuse in Western Cultures, part 2 today. There's a lot in that one section of the book, so I want to continue with that, which talks about a lot of the stigma, the difference between men and women and stuff. So what we know is that the stigma for women who have been sexually abused is it's much more acceptable than it is for men. There's a lot more resources for women, a lot more help for women, such as books, recovery centers. There's groups, there's self-help groups, facilities for them to get help in. Versus men, there's very few resources for men whatsoever. There's more and more coming out all the time. You've got a couple national website, malesurvivor.org, and also 1in6.org. So they have some resources on there. I think malesurvivor.org actually offers some workshops for men a couple times a year that I hear are fairly good. But the everyday local community outreach and help is not there. That's kind of what the Courageous Healers is doing. We want to be that local outreach for the men, local communities, and also in other communities as well. So there's less for women, less for men, a lot more for women. Like I said, it is becoming more and more. There seems to be more coming out for men, but yet again, there's still a huge stigma attached to men being sexually abused. Because basically our society tells us that male sexual abuse, it either proves your boy's fertility or your homosexuality. There's no in between. And so to admit that one was sexually abused, especially as a man, it would prove your weakness to society. Society tends to look at you as being weak for being sexually abused as a boy, as though you had something to do with it, as though you could have controlled it, which is an absolute lie. When it comes to relationships, oftentimes women, and this, like I say, oftentimes, if they're having trouble connecting with their partner, a lot of times they can look at it and they'll realize it has to do with their sexual abuse. That's why they are doing what they're doing. That's why they're acting the way they're acting. Sometimes they won't always realize it. I just had one lady this past weekend realize why she was acting a certain way with her husband. Some stuff was revealed to her, and it changed their lives altogether. It changed her life and her attitude towards her husband because she realized she had shame attached to certain acts that happened when she was a kid, and she carried that into her marriage, which is the wrong thing to do. I mean, Intimate love with your partner is supposed to be shameless. It's a very intimate thing. It's a very God-given thing. But when you're carrying the shame from your childhood into your bedroom with you, and I, as a man, will tell you that it's hard. Things come up, and you do things, and you don't understand why. What's wrong with me, right? Because that's like a woman might realize that she's got these problems, and she's not really broken. It's the result of what's happening. Men don't realize it, and it takes. And this is where the self-help, or not the self-help, that's where groups come in. This is where men need to be guided and instructed, because I realized one of the problems I had in the bedroom, and I'm sharing that with my group, and they pointed it out to me. Well, Randy, what did you used to do when your stepfather abused you? Oh. So it was in direct correlation with my abuse, and I didn't realize it. So there's a lot that goes on where women likely will recognize it before a man will, and a man won't recognize it. He just thinks there's got to be something wrong with me because I'm not performing right, or what am I doing wrong? And they don't really relate it to sexual abuse, because when they put a discount sexual abuse as just being, it's no big deal. It happened a long time ago, and I'm over it. But it does have a big part in a lot of our intimate relationships. So there's, women, there's more resources. It's easier for them to talk about. There's more places for them to go and get help. Where men, we don't have those places to go and get help. It's harder to talk about. And there's very few books that are written about it. And the other thing that I run across also, especially with my book, and even though it's been renamed Healing the Wounded Child Within, they don't want anybody to see what they're reading. They don't want to see them reading those type of books because of the shame that's attached to it, which is sad. Really sad, unfortunately. So we need to break the stigma between the difference between women being raped and a man being raped. It's still, the effects are far-reaching, and the effects are in many ways. There's a few differences, but in many ways, the effects are very much the same. The other problem we have in our society, Western society, and probably throughout the world, is that men are not seen as victims. They're seen as perpetrators. And for them to be seen as a victim, like I mentioned earlier, would be admitting they were weak, especially in our society. And I'm not saying everybody in our society will look at people that way, but a lot of people do, which is sad, and that's why men aren't talking about it. Some of the myths about sexual abuse that are going around right now, and I'm going to just read these directly, is unless a boy is violently penetrated by an adult male, it's not really sexual abuse. That's just flat out absurd. Sexual abuse takes many forms, and a lot of those don't even include physical contact between a perpetrator. If a boy gets an erection, he enjoyed the experience, so it can't be rape or abuse. It can't be rape or abuse. I mean, what kind of garbage is that? And I'm gonna go a little bit more in depth on that one in a second. There's one more I want to say. Hey, Danny, it's easier for a boy to be sexually aroused than a girl. Again, that one. And if a boy gets an erection, he enjoyed the experience, so it can't be rape or abuse. Those are two of the most absurd statements that have ever been made. Here's the problem. We don't have control over our body physically at all. So if a girl's being molested or raped, our body has these physiological reactions to certain types of touch and feeling. We have no control over that. I have one man, specifically one man, at a sexual abuse group. And what this one man said at the end, he was, okay, I'm just going to say it. He goes, it felt good. Yeah, Of course it's going to feel good. You can't control that. That's the part that sucks. You can't control it. It's physiologically impossible to control, especially as a young boy, teenager. Okay, it's impossible to control. Okay. That night, that man, even though we were there and we supported him and walked him through that feeling, that statement carried so much shame in it for a man or a woman to admit that man that night went home, wrote a suicide letter, and checked himself into Oasis mental health care that night. By the grace of God, he's okay today. Actually, he has a great life today. He's living, he's having fun in life. He's enjoying life. The girl that I went through treatment with kind of went through the same thing. Her uncle was a captain of the San Diego Police Department, I think it was. And she says, but Randy, it felt good. I go, well, of course it's going to feel good. And she goes, I go, look, even as a female, talk to the female, even as a female, if you were laying there on your bed with your legs spread, say, come here, I like the way it feels. It's the perpetrator who is an adult. It's their job to say, no, we're not going to do this. Minor and adult. It doesn't work that way. There's nothing we can do about how it feels. Just because it feels good, just because we got an erection, does not mean that we want it. Does not mean we wanted that attention. Okay? The society has got to realize this. All these stigmas, all these false beliefs, and I think the stigmas and false beliefs are basically there just because of the fact that society and people don't know how to deal with it. They don't want to hear about it. And with 1 in 4 boys and 1 in 3 women being sexually abused before the age of 18, it's likely because you're talking to people that have got the same issue and they just don't want to hear it. The reality is we have to talk about it. The other thing I want to talk about is if a boy and a younger girl have intercourse, right, it's considered rape. An older boy with a younger girl, minor, right, it's considered rape in society. But yet, if an older woman was to have sex with a younger boy, it's considered a passage into manhood, right? All of his friends high-fiving him, that a boy, even dad high-fiving him, that a boy, right? Well, we've talked to several of them boys that are now men that have been abused by women, and they're more erect than a lot of the men that have been abused by men. It has kept them from having healthy relationships with other women. It has scared them to death as young boys, okay? So it's the same. Sexual abuse is sexual abuse. And a minor cannot give consent. So there's been a story out recently I read where it was an 11-year-old girl who gave consent. An 11-year-old girl cannot give consent. It's just, they can't do it. So this garbage about women don't molest men or boys is a lie. Another lie of society. Because men don't want, again, they don't want to admit that, hey, that was not as fun as I thought it was going to be. And in fact, what those girls did to me, I have no idea how to respond to it. And I've heard some pretty brutal stories. Okay? Boys oftentimes are going to stuff their feelings and act as though nothing is wrong. Why would they do that? Well, because Dad, because of society, because of the rules of society. If they admitted that they were afraid, they admitted they were ashamed, they admitted they were weak or upset, again, society, maybe some of their peers and friends would look at them as though they were weak and what's wrong with you, and you're a big sissy, and if you didn't enjoy that with a woman, you must be gay, and it goes on and on and on and on. These are all underlying things that happen at a subconscious level. Okay? I know what happened to me. I felt really dirty. Really, really dirty. I felt so dirty, in fact, in 2004 that after 21 years of marriage, I had in my head that I did not deserve to be loved the way that Kathy loved me, being as dirty and tainted as I was, even though she knew it, that she was going to leave me. So who left who? The story is I left her. Okay? Nothing to do with Kathy. It was the lies that I was believing within myself. With that being said, I'm going to give you a couple statistics according to Lisak, who his study was done back in 1996. So it's an older study, but it's probably the most accurate study that's been done in a very, very long time. That according to his study, 42.3% of sexual abuse cases involve female perpetrators. 42.3% of cases involve female perpetrators. Okay? 11.5% of all cases involve both a female and a male perpetrator combined. I have heard some horrific stories from people in treatment facilities. At the age of 10 and 11, their father and their father's girlfriend were giving them meth and having them join in their sex acts. I've heard some pretty horrific stories, okay? So sexual abuse, I want you to understand something about sexual abuse. It has nothing to do with sex. It's all about power. Hurt people hurt people. Wounded hearts will wound hearts. Okay? I want to urge everybody to please educate yourself the best way you can about the sexual abuse, especially the men, but overall sexual abuse. It's destroying our country. I just read an article where sex trafficking in the United States is the number 2 black market behind drugs and guns. And then it's the sex trade. This is no joke. And it's not just all women. A couple of years ago, I listened to a sex traffic story from a woman that was sex trafficked. She's actually a model now. And we talked afterwards, and she goes, Randy, what they don't talk about is that 1 in 5 of the trafficked kids are boys. So this saying that this only happens to women is wrong. I can't say it enough. So we need to educate ourselves on this. I also want to bring up the fact that New York Times just had a long article about a Baptist church, it's called The Village, I think it is, in Flower Mound, Texas, that a girl when she was 11 years old was molested by the camp director, and they have been covering it up ever since it got to the surface. They've done everything. They fired that priest. Eventually, this is several years later, they fired him based on an alcohol problem, substance abuse problem. They never said anything about the sexual abuse. Our churches have got to quit covering this up. The pastor in my church told me in front of my perpetrator that, Randy, it's just part of growing up and you won't be gay. All that did was affirm that what Jack was doing to me was okay, because the abuse did get worse after that night. Okay? We've got to put an end to it. Quit worrying about yourself. Quit worrying about your precious friends. Quit worrying about your money. A child's life is worth more than anything. And if a father, if an uncle, if a priest, if a pastor, if a cousin, if they got to go to jail for a period of time, they're not going to lock them up for life anymore. They might get a year or two and then probation. Our laws are very loose when it comes to this. And the child might be upset, yeah, but it's either they go to jail for a short period of time or that child is in prison for the rest of their life until the point where they can speak out for themselves and start getting the help, if they get the help. Otherwise, they will be in prison for the rest of their life. And you're worried about some perpetrator and destroying the family is already destroyed. Look at the average perpetrator has 1 to 9 victims. And I know my perpetrator had a lot more than that. Okay, and a lot of them were family members. So we have to educate ourselves, be proactive in this, especially as a parent. If they come to you, listen to them. Insist. Don't be afraid to seek legal counsel. Don't be afraid to get the law involved. Okay? We have to start helping these people. It makes me sick when I read these articles. It turns my stomach. It tears my heart out of my chest. That's why I keep doing what I'm doing. There's times I want to quit because it is so hard. It's so much bigger than me. But I know the damage it does. I see the damage. My wife and I work with couples all the time. It's not sexual abuse, it's emotional and physical abuse. And I see the damage that's being done on a daily basis. And it hurts. So please, educate yourself the best way you can, however you can. If you want to help out the Courageous Healers Foundation, we're wanting to expand and be able to have that resource of a facility that people will come to. You can go to courageoushealers.org, and on the homepage, there's a donate button. You can donate. Whatever amount will help, will help. Anything will help to get us off the ground. I've been doing outreach for 9 years, and it's time to take it to the next level, okay? So if you could donate, courageoushealers.org, just hit the donate button. It's real quick, take you 2 minutes, and it's done and over with. You can be a monthly donor if you'd like, so you can set it up that way as well, okay? Anything you can do, Courageous Healers Foundation, the people working with them would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Also, I want to encourage you to go to my ChangeYourLifeStoryNow.com website. If you're looking for some coaching, I can coach you through a lot of things in life. I'd like to do a lot of this inner healing. I like to do family of origin work. I can do some business stuff. There's a lot that I can do and help you with. So visit that, ChangeYourLifeStoryNow.com, and you can check out that website and just shoot me an email, and I'll get right back to you. Also, I want to tell you that my book at this point is now available on Audible. It's now available on Audible. So I'm looking for something here. It's now available on Audible. So I'm gonna do some promoting here. I'm gonna get I have some coupons that you can get the Audible for free. The only thing I will ask, if you do pick one of those up, and I'm not sure how I'm gonna do it yet. The only thing I'm gonna ask in return is that you must give me a review on that Audible book. Okay, so that'll be coming out soon. And the last but least, hey, join me at the Pica today for Love Your Life Story Now. We got those workshops where we're really trying to promote heavily. We're going to be on 100.1 FM Remnant Radio this afternoon from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. We're going to be sharing about the consultation transformational Love Your Life Story. We're going to be sharing with you about what we are up to and what we are working toward, as well as sharing about our new upcoming workshops and programs. It's going to be fun and informative. See you then. So 1 o'clock today, 100.1 FM Remnant Radio. Join us, and you'll hear from both of us there about our upcoming workshops and what's going on. So thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. Next week, we'll be continuing this, chapter 1 again, further into the chapter next week. And then in July, we will go to chapter 2. Okay? So everybody have a super blessed day. Thanks for checking in. Thanks for reviewing it. And again, if you view this, please do me a favor. Go to our YouTube channel. I think it's Healing the Man. It's Randy Boyd, Healing the Man. Go to our YouTube channel. Just hit subscribe. It only takes you 2 seconds. I'm not going to bother you. I'm not going to chase you down. I'm just trying to get the subscribers on the channel. Okay? I greatly appreciate it. Everybody be super blessed. If nobody tells you they love you today, remember Randy does, and more importantly, God does. Be blessed, everybody. Thanks.